Welcome to D Cowboys LA Radio, episode 4. I'm your host, Eric Trujillo. Stick around. We're going to talk Zeke, Redskins defense, and the Redskins offense. Let's go ahead and get into it with Zeke. I compared him to a couple of things this weekend. Jalen Ramsey, Wentz, and Goff. Because those are high-profile picks, only one of those did we actually have a chance to get. But I kind of wanted to compare because a lot of people are still complaining that Zeke shouldn't have been the pick, especially after this first game. So just a couple of things I want to talk about when we get into Zeke. Jalen Ramsey didn't record any picks. He did go on Twitter saying that there was not one pass caught on him. But he didn't get a W for that team. And when you pick that much, a defensive player that high, he needs to do something in the game. A game-changing play, I think. Now, I know he's a rookie, and I'm going to keep my eye on him and watch him as the year goes on. But just out of the blue, I think we made the right choice. I know we made the right choice. And just watching that game and trying to see how he did, he was okay, but nothing elite, nothing that stands out, nothing better than Eli Apple did against us on Sunday night. Second was Wentz. He had a nice game, 2 touchdown tosses, but you have to remember that it is against the Browns. And the Browns, they're not a very good defense. So, yes, he had 2 very nice dimes. He dropped them in the bucket, and I'm not worried just yet. We really have to see where he's going to go because the season is he's going to face way better defenses, and we're going to get to see who Wentz really is. And the last one, Goff, did not even play. We'll see what happens with Goff. To me, he doesn't seem like he's the real deal. And we're lucky that we didn't have to choose between drafting him if he would have made it down to our slot, our pick. And just an extra one, Joey Bosa did not do anything as well. So if some people were upset that we missed on Bosa, I don't even think he played. Either way, so far we're looking right. We made the right pick. A couple of things I want to get into. Everybody was, another show on DallasCowboys.com compared stats to Adrian Peterson, which I thought was cool. It was a great thing to kind of see how that goes. But to me, I know that as a fan, I want to compare him to somebody that was on my team, on the Cowboys. And I went back to look at Emmitt Smith's rookie season. And for the year, he had a total of 241 attempts, 937 yards, and 11 touchdowns. So Emmitt in his first season had 11 touchdowns, didn't make the 1,000-yard mark, and he had 241 attempts. So that's the goal that I have for Zeke now. That's kind of what I'm going to compare him to, not AP, not anybody else. I want to see how he does compared to one of our own Hall of Famers, Emmitt Smith. So Zeke, I thought made a big impact. If we would have been able to capitalize on having all those men in the box, we would have seen that impact. I think if Tony would have played, we would have seen that impact. Nothing against Zach, but it's going to take him some time, maybe a couple of games to really start feeling comfortable to go deep. We would have seen that impact. And then 50 yards and a touchdown against, I'll tell you the truth, any other back. And people are going to say, oh, the Morris, he had a nice yards and nice runs, and Alfred did. And I would love to see more of Alfred Morris. I think we should just keep giving it to teams 1-2, 1-2. But Jeff Kavanaugh did a great job of pointing out that they had 9 guys in the box whenever it was Zeke. And when it wasn't, when it was Morris, they kind of backed off a little bit into 8-7. So any other running back with those attempts would probably have had a worse yardage for the game and maybe not even make that touchdown. So people, please don't worry about Zeke right now. Zeke's going to be just fine. And I think this game, he's definitely going to show us some. So let's get into the Redskins. The Redskins defense plays a 3-4. So to me, the first thing that I thought about is going to be interesting. This is going to be Dak's first time in the NFL seeing a 3-4 defense. All the preseason, if I'm correct, and his first game, they were all 4-3 defenses. Now, if you don't know what 3-4 difference between a 4-3 and a 3-4, 4-3 which is what the Cowboys play. There's 4 down linemen and 3 backers, and usually that third linebacker comes off the field for passing situations, and you bring in an extra DB. Now, with the 3-4, you have 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers, and it's a little bit difficult to play against because they can kind of disguise who's coming and who's going a lot easier. They can drop all 4 linebackers into coverage. They can blitz the 2 outside linebackers. They can drop 2 outside, blitz the 2 middle backers. And pressure can really come from so many other areas, and it can confuse the quarterback because they can drop into different zones. They might have thought, hey, you know what, Preston Smith is coming off this edge here. I can get the snap right behind him, and he drops back, and there's a pick 'cause he's a big man. So this is going to be an interesting thing. I went back to take a look at a game that Dak had in college against Alabama, and unfortunately he didn't fare too well. Alabama does run the 3-4, sometimes 3-3 if you could believe it. They do kind of the opposite of what the 4-3 is. The same thing, but in a different defense. They drop one of their linebackers out, making him another DB, and it's 3-3, 3 down linemen, and then 3 linebackers. But most of the time, they're in a 3-4, and it was a rough game for Dak. He got sacked a couple of times, and he didn't do too well. And this could do with a lot of different things. It could have been due to the confusion, due to the fact that Alabama is a great defense year in and year out. But just something to think about. Hopefully they prep him and he's ready to go against the 3-4 and the different looks that he might see. Be able to identify who's coming before the snap. Now let's get to their personnel. They have a couple of studs on their team. Preston Smith, a second-round pick from last year, is a very good defensive end. I think he's more than they ever expected to get from him. Originally, when I was scouting him last year, I thought he was too slow to be a good defensive end, but he has just so much power and his instincts are so good that he is a very good defensive end. He's only in his second year, and across the other way, Ryan Kerrigan is a good outside linebackers. They're not defensive ends. They're both outside linebackers that come like the ends, but they also can drop back, and they're very good. Their whole linebacking core is really good. Will Compton and Foster, they get off of blocks. You're not going to block them with just one guy. They'll get off a block, and they're onto our running back. So that's the strength of this defense, those 4 linebackers. Now, they do have a weakness, and that's in their D tackles. None of the 3 D tackles are actually very, very good. They're not big run stuffers like we saw this weekend against the Giants. That's going to be a weakness that we have to exploit. We're not the Steelers, so everybody's excited about the Steelers. Let's get something straight. The Steelers coaching staff is very intelligent. They will adapt, and they're not very stubborn. They'll do what needs to be done. So just because, that's one thing I want to get across before we keep even going. People think, oh yes, the Steelers got whooped the Redskins, we're going to get a W. It doesn't work that way. Different scheme, different planning, different strategy by the coaches. So now for us, we have to take a look at that game, the footprint of what they did, and hope to look for weaknesses. And I think that's one of them. Their D tackles is one of the weaknesses on the team, and their safeties. They have 2 good corners. As much as Breland got cooked by AB this last game, he's a very good cornerback. Not every receiver would be able to do that to him. And I don't think we have anyone with the speed on the team to be able to do that to Breland. He's a physical corner, so he matches up well with Dez. Dez can catch on him, by all means, but they've had good battles when they go up against each other. And, of course, you got Josh Norman. And just a thought, I think that this game, Josh Norman is going to be moving wherever Dez goes. Because of all this stuff, I have a gut feeling that Josh is going to move wherever Dez goes. And we have to take advantage of that. We're going to if they do that, we know that Breland will be out of place, and that is a plus. So that's the strength of that team. Their corners are good. Their linebackers are good. Their D tackles, not too good. So if we can get running the ball on them, we should, as D'Angelo Williams did. That's something that we might be able to do if we can do it right. Get the right plays going. Read option is going to be a good thing because on the 3-4, you leave that D end or that outside linebacker alone. He has to make a decision. Am I going with Zeke or am I going with Dak? And that opens up the playbook so much. You can play action off of that. Dak can take off. Zeke can take off. And we can just eat away throughout the whole game. And in watching the game tape, D'Angelo Hall has lost a step. So D Hall and their strong safety are a weakness to me on this team, and we have to find a way to exploit that. Quick thought. Whenever I see Antonio Brown, I think Lucky Whitehead. Lucky's about the same height, same speed. I don't know why we can't run Lucky on a fade like that. Or a deep drag and let him keep going. We need to utilize that speed. And just a thought. Now let's talk Redskins. The key is Kirk Cousins. The Steelers did leave out a footprint. They don't have amazing defensive players like they used to. Everybody thinks Steelers vaunted D. It doesn't work that way. They have a couple of players on there like Shazier. Harrison is about 38 years old and he's still a stud, but he's not the Harrison of old. They just played. They had a great strategy. They said, okay, we're gonna drop everybody back into coverage, and you're gonna beat us with your arm. And I think that's something that we should stick with. We don't really get it pressure as it is, so the best thing would be to drop back into coverage and make Cousins pick us apart. Now, a weapon that I would be wary of is Thompson, not their starting running back. Thompson can definitely do what Vereen did to us this last game if we're not careful. He's more explosive, and he has big playability as opposed to Matt Jones. He's kind of a ground and pound guy that I'm not really scared of. I think we can stop that. But Thompson is the guy I want to keep my eye on. Garcon, Djax, Crowder, and Reed are very good receivers and a tight end. So we have to make sure that we are dropping into our zones. And I think that's the way to go. Drop into zones, make Kirk beat you. He had an awful game this last week. I'm pretty sure he's going to play better. But if we can just contain him and contain their best players, don't let the ball get in their hands, make Kirk beat us, I think we have a really good chance at coming up with some turnovers and winning this game defensively. The Giants were a very good team. I knew that going in, and they proved it. And a loss is a loss. Doesn't matter how you take it. There's some positive things to take from that team, take from that game, and hopefully we bring it out. Now their weakness on offense is their center, Corey Lichinson. He is their weakness. If we do want to blitz, if we do want to beat up on Kirk, that's their weakness right there. The center on there, I hope they saw that on film and we can attack that. I think good coaches can see things like that, look for a weakness, adjust, adapt, attack. Their tackles are very good. Morgan Moses, I believe he's a third-round pick last year. That was a great draft for them. And so is Trent Williams. They're studs. They're going to do their thing. They're going to block our DNs, I believe, fairly well. So we got to take when we can with some D-tackle pressure. Hopefully Terrell McLean and Crawford can get some pressure this game for us. I'm going to leave you with a quote. When you want to win a game, you have to teach. When you lose a game, you have to learn. Tom Landry. I hope that this last game teaches our coaches something. That we have to adapt. We have to put our players in the best possible position to make plays. Look for a weakness and attack it. That's going to do it for this episode of D Cowboys LA Radio. Please feel free to send me a tweet, LA Cowboy 1986 at LA Cowboy 1986. I'll be happy to chop it up with you. Stick with me for after the game. I'm going to do a quick recap Sunday night. Hopefully covering a W. And go Cowboys. See you guys Sunday. Enjoy the game. Have a good one.